Hello there and welcome back to my channel. My name is Whitney. In part 1 we made this Pigeon Girl bird hat, and in part 2 I will show you how I made this corset, this waist cincher, whatever you really want to call it, with these pennant pieces. I'm really happy overall with the shaping and how it looks all tied together. The buttons are really pretty in person. I think the rainbow really helps make it pop. The rainbow thread was really fun to use, also the rainbow bias tape. I'd never used that before. And I'm really excited to show you how I put this together and look forward to the final reveal. Okay, so my next part of this project, which this is kind of a new step for me. I've never done this personally. I've seen a lot of really talented people here on YouTube and in the cosplay community create their own corsetry or, you know, waist cinchers. I personally have always just been of the opinion that I'm just going to buy one because it's just easier. But I wanted to add a little bit of structure to the little waistcoat for my Pigeon Girl. So all I did was I took a cheap Amazon corset, I traced out the pattern, cut it out on my black fabric, marked where I'm going to put the boning channels, and I'm using just this Grossgrain, I think that's how you pronounce it, ribbon, and I created the channels. I'm pinning them down, sewing them, and I'm using zip ties for the structure to hopefully add just a little bit of strength to this, and we will see how this turns out. This is the first time I'm doing this. I'm a little nervous and a little excited. Alright, so I got all of the boning channels sewn in, and I've got the zip ties in place. I have my next piece, which is cut out the exact same way, but there's not going to be any boning channels in there. I am going to finish the top with bias tape. This is going to be the front, so it's nice and clean so you don't see all of this on the outside. So my next step here is I am going to bind off the top with my bias tape, and then the bottom piece has those flare out design or pennant designs, if you want to call it that. So I've got that, I've got it interfaced. I just need to sew this up, flip it inside, you know, good side out, sew that to the bottom hem, and then I can take the bias tape and do it to the points here. And next step is just going to be a lot of sewing. Alright, so we're switching gears because I cut out the sleeves on the bolero. They are not the right fit. I apparently cut the wrong pattern. I'll have to go get some more fabric. That's no big deal. But for now, I'm just going to go switch back to my little waistcoat, you know, corset, whatever I'm calling it here. So what I need to do here is I need to trim up these zip ties, just so I'm not gonna sew over them because that will ruin my needle, and you definitely do not want to do that. I also just am taking a quick peek here, and I do see that this one got put in the wrong way, so I'm gonna flip that. And then all I am going to do for this is I'm going to trim these down. I'm going to take my pair of scissors, just trim those really well. I am going to sew on the top layer, the pretty layer you can call it. And then I am going to put the bias tape. I have got some more of that rainbow bias tape that's really, really pretty. That's going to be my top edge. My bottom edge is this piece that I am working on. I'm going to call it a pennant, a bustle. I'm not really sure what you want to call it here. I'm trying to decide if I am going to just hand stitch this on the back side here, or if I want to buy some rainbow thread to finish that off. I have yet to decide on that. That's something that I do need to decide, but that is going to be pinned to the bottom layer here. But for now, what I am going to do is I am going to trim up these zip ties. I am going to attach the top side of this and then go from there. Alright, just a quick check-in here. I've got my bias tape on my hat. Really proud, really like how that looks. Again, it just makes a really nice clean edge on these hats. I'm thinking of making another bow and putting it on the back of the witch hat. I think it'd be really cute. I have a little extra blue fabric, so I may do that. I've got my bias tape. I have not sewn down the rainbow part yet. I've got some rainbow thread coming hopefully in the mail today from Amazon. I just thought that I've never had rainbow thread, and I just thought it'd look really nice. So I picked that up. I did get the bodice, corset, whatever we're gonna call it here. I did get that pinned down, and I'm going to line up those edges, and I'll be stitching those together probably later today. I haven't decided if I'm going to machine stitch it or if I am going to whip stitch it together by hand. I did that with my Subaru cosplay. I just literally lined these up and then I whip stitched them together. I haven't decided yet, but I love bias tape. It makes all of your edges look so nice and so clean. I love it. I'm obsessed with it. I worked a little bit more on the waistcoat, corset, whatever you want to call it here. I did attach the pennant bustle. Let me get this in frame here. I did attach this. Originally I was going to use just a whip stitch using by hand. I didn't feel like doing all of that, so I just went over it with a zigzag stitch. It's kind of hard to see because it's black, but it did the job. Literally just zigzag stitched these two bias tapes together, and it looks really nice. Although when I tried it on, it was too tall. It didn't sit right, it didn't feel right. So what I ended up doing is I cut off 2 inches from the top here. Now I did have to also shorten my zip ties here in the back. I did add one more boning channel to the very, very front. It's hard to see, again, it's black on black. I added another boning channel that's gonna be right in the center. It felt better when I put it on. And then I also, something I didn't do originally, which I'm kind of glad that it happened this way. Originally, I just had this sealed off. There was no bias tape, but I thought it'd look really nice if it matched the bottom of the pennant banners with this rainbow bias tape. So I have just attached that to the first part, and then I'm probably going to have to either hand sew this just because this was too thick for the top, and I didn't want, and you don't want to sew over these zip ties. You can really mess up your machine, you can mess up your needle. So I'm probably gonna have to hand stitch that. But that is my update so far. We are getting to the tail end of the part here. I have just a plain white zipper I'm going to put on it. The other piece of this is I bought these very pretty iridescent buttons that I'm just going to sew directly onto the front here. I think there's either 4 or 5, I can't remember, I have to look at the reference image, but those are going to go on the center here, put on the zipper, and then this part is basically done. Alright, next little update I have here on my corset bustle situation. I have now hand stitched the bias tape down, and then I also went out and bought myself a zipper. This one's really cool. It's got the iridescent effect. I thought it'd be very pretty. The most important part here is that it is a separating zipper because I want to be able to take this on and off without it being stuck and have to slide it over my body and my head at all times. So just going to get this literally just pinned into place, sew that up, and then I can add the buttons. So let's keep going. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to like and subscribe. Look forward to the next part, and happy crafting!